The Mice and the Missing Iron. In a quiet town nestled between green hills and golden fields, there lived a kind-hearted merchant. He was known for his honesty and his love for collecting old things. Among his treasures was a large iron balance scale, rusty, heavy, and no longer used, but deeply cherished because it had belonged to his grandfather. One day, the merchant decided to travel to another town to buy silk, spices, and other goods. Before leaving, he visited a grain seller who owned a spacious warehouse. "I'll be away for a few months," said the merchant. "Could you please keep my iron scale safe until I return?" The grain seller nodded. "Of course. It will be safe with me." With that, the merchant packed his bags and set off on his journey. Months passed. The merchant returned with colorful fabrics, fragrant spices, and stories of distant lands. After greeting his family, he went to the grain seller's house to collect his iron scale. "I've come to take back my scale," he said cheerfully. The grain seller looked uncomfortable. He scratched his head and said, "I'm really sorry. While you were away, mice got into my warehouse. They chewed through my grain sack, and they even ate your iron scale." The merchant blinked. "What? Mice ate my iron scale?" "Yes," said the grain seller, trying to sound serious. "They are very strong mice." The merchant knew this wasn't true. Mice couldn't possibly eat iron. But instead of arguing, he smiled and said, "I understand. Mice can be very mischievous. By the way, I brought gifts for your son. May I take him to the temple with me? I'd like to give him sweets and show him the new prayer bells." Relieved that the merchant wasn't angry, the grain seller agreed. "Of course. He'll enjoy that." The merchant took the boy to the temple. But instead of giving him sweets, he left the child with his cousin, who lived nearby. Later that evening, the grain seller came running to the merchant's house, panicked. "Where is my son? He hasn't returned." The merchant calmly replied, "Oh no. A hawk swooped down and carried him away. These hawks are very strong, you know." The grain seller's face turned red. "That's impossible. A hawk can't carry a boy." The merchant raised an eyebrow. "Just like mice can't eat iron." The grain seller was silent. "If you want your son back," said the merchant gently, "return my iron scale." Ashamed, the grain seller nodded. "You're right. I lied. I sold your scale for money. I'll return it tomorrow." The next day, the grain seller brought back the iron scale, and the merchant reunited him with his son. They hugged tightly, and the grain seller apologized. "I've learned my lesson," he said. "I'll never lie again." The merchant smiled. Truth always finds a way. Moral: even the smallest lie can lead to big consequences. Honesty and clever thinking always win in the end.